I'm focused on the spirit cause it keeps me from his fire. The Holy Ghost is with me, so my fear I leave behind. My sins were all diminished when he took that breath and died. And if you think I'ma give up on my God, the devil is a lie. The devil is a lie. The devil is a lie.
Hello. Welcome to Black Tea News. I'm your host, Christina Barr, and today we're going to be talking about the arrests that have started in Minnesota. There were protesters, of course, who decided to come into church and disrupt the service, and that's been the big news. And so I don't think Don Lemon hasn't been arrested yet, but there are 3 other people that the DOJ arrested, and Don Lemon is kind of continuing to instigate and agitate with the we'll see kind of mentality. Basically because he thrives off of attention. He doesn't have he's not under somebody, so he has to create his own kind of controversy to get likes and money and eyeballs and things like that. So we know some people have been have been arrested. One person has an interesting background, raking over 1 million from an poverty nonprofit. So these people are real peaches. I also saw this crazy video with a woman. She put it on TikTok, so someone had clipped it, is making the rounds on X and stuff, but it's got a lot of views on TikTok too, of a woman who is gearing up to go like stalk ICE and stuff, and she's bringing her baby along. Her, like, I think the baby's 18 months. We'll look at the video, but I'm still stunned. Excuse me, not surprised, but stunned every time I see this crazy stuff. Why are people doing this? Why are they putting their kids in harm's way? Why are they taking them out in this intense cold? I don't know how cold it is in Minnesota right now. I know it's cold right now in Michigan. It's 0 degrees. It's 0 degrees. And I know how cold that is with the wind chill or whatever, but it's cold. It's really cold right now. And you're going to obstruct, which is, you're out there breaking the law. So we'll be talking about some of these things today. I did watch that debate about interracial marriage. I'll talk a little bit about that, but I don't have any clips prepared for that. I guess I could find some real quick, but I'll just sum it up real quick, and I'll probably dive into it with some other videos later. But before we jump in everything, I want to encourage you guys to go to blacktnews.com, check out different content on my website, articles, videos, etc. If you like what I do, please consider leaving a donation on the website, because this costs a stream, run my site, all the good stuff. So guys, again, support, I very much do appreciate it and appreciate you guys. You guys can also check out different merch that's available on my website, different t-shirts and different books and things like that that I have fiction, nonfiction, and all kinds of different stuff. So there's this one guy named Dan McKellen. So I have my book, of course, God is blatantly against abortion, and he's a critical Bible scholar. And I know he was on Alex O'Connor's show and he talked about abortion. So somebody was critiquing a clip of him and some of his arguments or whatever. And so he brought up the passage in Exodus where the passage is there's 2 men striving together, they're fighting, and if they accidentally, there's a pregnant woman around, and in the midst of their fighting, they end up harming this woman in their brawl, and if the child comes out early, then and there's no other harm, then there's a fine that's imposed. But if there is more harm, it's life for a life, etc., etc. And so he was saying that people who use that scripture to say that it's a early birth instead of miscarriage are wrong. Now it doesn't use the term that for miscarriage it's used another place in the Bible. It uses the term child, and it come out as in you can just kind of come out of a location or place or whatever. So the literal definition of those words don't seem to be what he is saying. And in other explanations he's given, he says that the child is property because he's pulling from other near ancient law codes and Exodus, like the law codes that God prescribed are ones that do mirror like other ones, but they obviously upgrade in morality. So like the other ones might be like, okay, you caused the child to die, so we're gonna kill your daughter or something. So it's not even like to the people who cause the harm. It's just like revenge or whatever. But that's not how these biblical law codes work. So I don't think that made sense. But he also tried to argue that the fetus has no moral standing or no more, like the father gets to say how much the penalty is. So that means, you know, I don't know, I guess his worth is arbitrary or not really designated. And then he mentioned, it's like, we know how much slaves cost. Like they cost 30 shekels. And so I'm like, 30 shekels. I'm like, I'm pretty sure if you kill a slave, it's life for a life though. I'm like, you can't just go around killing slaves. And so I look, and I don't know if I can't think of another passage or whatever, but also in Exodus, it does mention something about 30 shekels and slaves, but that's if an ox accidentally kills a slave. And then you have to pay the owner of that person 30 shekels, but you have to still kill the ox. So I know that's like really nerdy Bible kind of conversations, but I just thought that was so strange, so odd. I'm like, is he trying to pull a fast one over on us? Cause I'm not aware of any other place where it's like the 30 shekels. I have to dive in some more, but I'm pretty sure he's taken from the ox, and that's still like an accidental killing. So I address a lot of different things, including the passage in my book, of course, God is blatantly against abortion, because I've heard a lot of these arguments and stuff before. But I never heard someone bring up the 30 pieces of the shekels and the ox. That was kind of a new angle. Anyway, you guys can check out some of my my content there. I do apologize. Yesterday I didn't end up going live, and I didn't give a heads up before. I was sick yesterday morning, and by the afternoon I was like really. Well, I'm like, I felt a little nauseous and I had a headache, and I'm like, I know I need to sleep this off. And so I slept it off, and then I frankly kind of overslept. So I do apologize. I feel better. I did feel better after my nap, but that is what happened. And I do apologize, but let's try to make up for it today. Okay. So first thing I want to show you guys is this crazy new Target video. We know that white liberal women, not just white liberal women, but they are the ones who are leading the charge here, are going to Target and they are protesting. So I have seen sit-ins. I've seen people buy salt and then just return it, which I find to be really annoying. I talked about how I used to work at Target, and if there's like big lines at the registers, they call people like, hey, we need help up here. Because obviously people want to go home. They got their stuff. They don't want to be in long lines the whole time during checkout. And Target is known for their fast checkout. So you're holding up all these cashiers and stuff, doing not only buying the salt, but then choosing to return it. But I saw one of my younger sisters, who also worked at Target. There were three of us working at Target at one point, but she was a cashier full time. Was she full time? She might have been part time, but that's what she did. Like I did back room and unloaded the truck. My other sister did soft lines, so she did like clothes and primarily the shoe department. Like she kept that stuff straight. And the other sister was on registers. That she was hired to be a cashier. So she watched the video and she made a good point. She commented something, and I don't know, that was a while ago, but if people return food, they don't just like, well, let me put that back on the shelves. you can return it, but they just have to like basically throw it away. So that just made me more annoyed. I'm like, these people want to sock it to Target or whatever, but this is so annoying. And then it's like processing and all this stuff for the employees. It's annoying for the other customers, and it's annoying for the employees who are working there for whatever they're getting paid. I When I was working there, I got like, I don't know, 850, 875 or something when I was working at Target. So these videos are so uber annoying. I already didn't like my job, and you know, and just to think of being there and seeing these people do all this crazy stuff is just mind blowing to me. But there's a new one. There's a new one, and this one is probably the most annoying to me. Out of all the things that they're doing.
Hi. No, because we're not actually going to buy all this. We just loaded up our carts. We're protesting shop administration. Yes. Attention, Target shoppers. 2:00 now. We're going to walk out as part of the Free America walkout. We walk away from fascism. We walk towards a free America. We fight for a future that belongs to all of us. Everybody in, nobody out. Everybody should walk out, including the workers. Hi. Hi.
This is crazy. And let me tell you why this is so annoying to me. I hated when we had to when there was all the stuff like in the middle of the day or mostly at night. And I didn't have to work at night a lot. And if I was picking up a shift, doing some overtime, trying to get some money, because I already said I was making like 850 or something. Had to take care of my life. Had to bills, with family, like the whole family together. We had, we were pulling our money to pay for our rent and other things like that. I'd also be making money, trying to like also, get my dream off the ground with my writing books and traveling and stuff like that. So sometimes I was if you could find the hours, and they weren't always available, but if you could find the hours, I'd try to find them. But one thing I hated when there'd be all these carts full of crap that you'd have to bring to the store, bring back to its place on the store. Find where the shirts go, find where the Cascade, which I knew where that was because I stocked those shelves, but like just aisle by aisle, putting all this stuff up. And it's an important thing. You got to clean up your store at the end of the night. You got to clean up your store middle of the day. There'd be carts and stuff too. And I guess when you unload the truck, you got to stock stuff too, but things are organized when we organize the stuff as it comes off the truck and we put everything together. These carts just have so much crap in them from like all over the place. So people have to sort the carts, and people have to go put everything up. And these women don't care. All these people coming here to pick stuff up off the shelves, to put their carts up in the front, and to just leave it there for people to clean up, and then say, oh, we think the workers should walk out too. And then they don't have a job. And then they don't have a job. These people are so selfish. I'm so glad you got your retiree money or your rich husband or whatever, or you don't care about your job, or you're getting paid by some kind of organization. I think I don't know what they pay in Minnesota, but I think people are paying like about $15 or whatever now. But just relating my experience, like this would be so annoying. I'd go home and talk about this, and I'd be so annoyed. I go in the break room, I would talk to my fellow employees. I'd be so annoyed. And I'd want to say something. I'm not promised. If I was in those shoes, I'd be like, ma'am, if you're going to walk out, just please go. Please leave. Please leave. Please. Just go. I'd like you to put all the stuff back before you go, but you don't need to grandstand. You're already made this hard enough. I know they wouldn't want you to say all that stuff though. You're just supposed to be like, can I help you find something? And smile. And it's so inconsiderate. This reminds me of a story. One time my sister was working, she did, and I already said she did the shoes. Well, that sister did the shoes and stuff. And there were kids, there's this one woman, and she had all these shoes and she had her kids trying on and stuff. And so they just had stuff on the floor, shoes on the floor, boxes or whatever. And then when they were done, the kid was like starting to pick stuff up. And the mother said, no, they have people to do this. Don't do that. They have people to do this. They have people who have to do that. But good common sense etiquette, I don't know, for pulling out a bunch of shoes, like you don't know kind of where they go from your size. You just want to leave a mess, not even like stacked boxes on top of each other. You just want to leave a mess in the middle of the Target floor because you think so little of the workers. That's what this is. You think so little of these people. Just, you can walk out. What if they have to feed their kids? What if they have to pay their rent? What about their light bill? Their phone? People don't have that sort of privilege. The audacity of these people, I'll keep saying it, it's so insane to me. It's so insane to me. It's really crazy. Almost as crazy. This next one I'm going to show you is way crazier in my opinion. I'm going to try to turn the volume off of it because I don't want to get, there's a song on it. I don't want to get dinged, but the caption is what's important. Let me shrink myself so you can see it. You may not still be able to see it, so I'll read it to you, but you can see what's happening in the video. Gearing up to go patrol at my neighborhood school in sub-zero weather looks like when you've got an 8-month-old on your back because my babies aren't more important than anybody else. So taking your baby, your 18th month old, to do ice patrol, that's not your job, to go patrol ice. And the reason why you're doing this, it's performative, of course. It's virtue signaling, of course. They probably are like into the, we need to do, they probably delude themselves to that degree, but it's not your job, obviously, to go patrol ice. If you're going to go to blow whistles and block traffic or anything like that, you are obstructing, and that is not legal. And if they arrest you, lady, and end up having you in handcuffs and having to confiscate your baby because they don't want you to go to jail with your baby, they'll be like, they kidnapped this 18-month-old, or something goes down and somebody near her needs to get like tear gassed or something. They're going to, they tear gassed an 18-month-old. Why? Why are you doing this? Why are you this is crazy to me. When even like Riley Gaines, I don't think I ended up mentioning this. I did a video. I didn't end up posting it, but Riley Gaines did a video. She went on Fox and she talked about how she was at the Supreme Court, and they were doing a protest for women and women's sports, on behalf of women's sports and stuff. And so she mentioned about the dangers. And so she mentioned that she got a bulletproof baby blanket for her newborn. I don't know how old the baby is, but she had the baby not too long ago. And so there are people in the comments like, why would you bring your baby there? And she's probably nursing. I get that. I probably just wouldn't bring the baby there. And if she felt like she really, really still needed to bring the baby there, which she's fighting for her child, I understand that. I don't know. I don't think that's a great talking point to be like, I had to bring a bulletproof blanket in order to protect my baby here at the Supreme Court because the danger is so severe. I probably just would have not brought the baby. I'm not saying like she should have to live in fear and not take her child places or whatever, but that's, I don't know, just instead of people going like, oh, the left is so crazy, they're like, huh? Why would you do that? It's just like, from a PR perspective, not great. But this is way crazier to me. because Riley people should be able to go, have their babies at such things. She's actually like gearing up to go do something that's not legal. And that's the question here. My sister said, why isn't her child more important than someone else's? And there's somebody needs to call CPS. Yeah, I don't know what Minnesota CPS is going to do, but that is one of the first reactions I had reading this, when she said that because her child's not more important than anyone else's. Maybe inherently that's the case. Like, we're all made in the image of God. We all have inherent value. We all have equal rights, etc., etc. But your child should certainly be more important to you than everyone else's child. Absolutely. That's a common sense standpoint. You obviously have a legal obligation to your child. Biblically, that like you have an obligation to your family and your household. Not that you're not supposed to help others, but you are supposed to make sure that your family is okay. And this is just bonkers to me. And I thought about an article that I wrote some time ago. It was a couple years ago. I think it was like around it must have been 2022. I think that's when the abortion bill got passed, the constitutional amendment in Michigan got passed. And so around that time, I would go try to convince people like, hey, this is a bad thing. Do not vote for Prop 3. It's going to do all these terrible things. It's, it's not obvious in the language, but it's, it's going to really challenge parental consent and other stuff like that. And by the way, these activist organizations, I can show you on their websites where they want to get rid of like parental consent when it comes to abortion, because they try to claim that it should just be that person's privacy, but that's even if they're a minor and all kinds of different stuff. So I would go through the language and I could even talk. So I talked to people, even people who got people to sign up for the petitions to get it on the ballot, and who are Black women. And I'm like, there's no parental consent stuff in here. And they're like, oh my gosh, that's not right. That's not good. It's not good that she got people to sign it and didn't know all the repercussions to this particular constitutional amendment. But at least once it was explained to her, the possible repercussions, she was concerned about them. But then I noticed when I would talk to liberal white women about it, first they would say that's not true. And then once I proved it was true, then it was like, okay, it may be happening, but it's a good thing. You know that meme or whatever, when it's like, it's not happening, and then it's like, okay, it is happening, but it's a good thing. Like there's a circle of like dealing with leftists. They deny it, and then they're like, actually, it's good. Like nobody's transing the kids, but actually it's happening and it's a good thing. Like nobody is getting late term abortions. But if it is happening, actually, that's That's her prerogative. That's a good thing. um so I, between that and other things I observed, like they'd ask like, what's on your mind as far as an important thing going on in the midterms, you know, on the election, what's a high priority to you? If you ask Black and Hispanic people, crime was a top issue. And when you looked at liberals, it was like 34%. My crime is a really low priority for the liberals here. That's really interesting. So I ended up writing an article based off of just like anecdotal experience and a couple of different statistical points. And I'm like, the difference between like liberal women and minorities. And I talked about like a view of how they are willing to just sacrifice their children like this. And sometimes every now and then I'd be like, was that too harsh of a worldview? Was it to go ahead and just kind of put out there? Is that gonna be something I look back on and like maybe I shouldn't have written that? And then I see stuff like this. And I see stuff like this. And I'm like, you were right on the money. I see stuff like this. I see it persisting. People like, it's I say it's a tragedy what happened to Renee Good. I wish she was still alive. I wish that stuff wouldn't happen. But I wish she wouldn't have put herself in harm's way, and people keep encouraging more people to put themselves in harm's way, and people are continuing to do it themselves, and not only themselves, are dragging their children into it. And I think even some of them probably hope that they could be part of the noise. Their kids could be part of the noise. There are people being attacked. There was one person who was stabbed. I didn't talk about the person who was stabbed, which they're like a right-wing agitator who's not the best person in the world, but they were stabbed. People get tear gas and all hit in the face with pepper bullets, and it's all kinds of crazy stuff can happen. It's just not an appropriate place to bring your child and then get on TikTok to flex about it. I hope this is just like preparing for a video. I even went to go check out her page, because sometimes you see crazy stuff like this and it's actually a parody account. So I wanted to know, I'm like, I need to double check and see if this is a joke before I go like nuclear on this. And it wasn't a parody account. I watched a couple of videos. And it's just crazy. She doesn't even have a lot of followers. Maybe after this she'll have a lot more. It's not AI. It's not AI. It's not an AI page. She's a real person. I looked her up on TikTok, which her handle is, you can see in this particular video. But yeah, I went to her real page. It's sweet of you to think it's AI. And you know what? We need to check and do our due diligence and stuff. I've seen a lot of people make a lot of viral content reacting to different videos that were parody accounts or whatever. Not really AI so much, but I'm not surprised, but it is still stunning. At the like a bad stunning, not like you look gorgeous in that outfit, just like, wow, why would you do this? Wow, why would you do this? Anyway, moving on. The Trump administration did arrest a couple people. This NBC News article, Homeland Security and FBI agents arrested 3 protesters in connection with a demonstration that interrupted Sunday service at a church in St. Paul, Minnesota. Attorney General Pam Bondi said Thursday on social media. The protesters, Nikema Levy Armstrong, Chantel Louisa Allen, and William Kelly, and others involved in the demonstration objected to a pastor at City's church who they said works for immigration and customs enforcement. Meanwhile, so there's a couple people more than them, I guess. Meanwhile, a federal magistrate judge rejected a criminal complaint against journalist Don Lemon, who said he was at the church protest because he was reporting on it, according to a source familiar with the matter, who described Bondi as enraged by the decision. Several organizers of the protest were calling for the resignation of Pastor David Easterwood, who they say is also the acting director of an ICE field office in St. Paul. In that role, Easterwood spoke alongside Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem about ICE activity in October, according to a video from NBC affiliate CARE of Minneapolis. Noem shared a photo of Armstrong's arrest on social media Thursday, saying she was being held on conspiracy charges, alleging that she played a key role in orchestrating the church riots in St. Paul, Minnesota. I think riots is probably a strong word, but religious freedom is the bedrock of the United States. There is no First Amendment right to obstruct someone from practicing their religion, Noem said. Jordan Kushner, Armstrong's attorney, said in the phone call Thursday afternoon his client was arrested for doing a peaceful, nonviolent protest in a church, and that demonstrators were engaged in an exercise of free speech. Your freedom of expression doesn't get to override other people's freedom of religion, their right to assemble. And by the way, that's on private property, and they did this to disrupt. I think they have them dead to rights on this stuff. And the Biden administration has certainly gone after pro-lifers in front of abortion clinics and stuff for less. So good luck with that. But not really good luck. Justice Department officials had said they were pursuing the investigation based upon the Freedom to Access to Clinic Entrances Act of 1994, which covers reproductive health services as well as places of worship, under a compromise legislators reached in the wake of several killings of abortion doctors. Kushner said he has not yet received official documentation about what charges Armstrong faces. She is being detained at a federal courthouse, he said. In a social media post, DHS said Allen has been charged with conspiracy to deprive rights for her role in the St. Paul church riots. Allen is a St. Paul school board member. Yikes. NBC News has reached out to Allen for comment, but did not immediately receive a response. An attorney has not yet been listed for her. Kelly, who goes by the username DeWoke Farmer on social media, could not be reached for comment Thursday, and an attorney has not yet been listed for him. He posted a video on TikTok about 3 hours before his arrest Thursday condemning Armstrong's arrest. My lawyers tell me they have no bleep case, Kelly said in the video, adding that using the FACE Act to justify the arrest is complete bull bleep. Nope, Jolie, I don't see how they don't have him dead to rights on that. Kelly was among the protesters in the church. He posted 2 videos on TikTok showing his participation on Sunday. Videos from inside the church showed dozens of demonstrators marching as they chanted ICE out and David Easterwood out now. That's not all they did. We watched that video the other day. They were chanting, stuff about Renee Good and their hands up, don't shoot, other things like that. Yeah. There was an image of like a family and they were like holding a child and they were crying. Don Lemon, by the way, as people were leaving the church, he was out there trying to interview people, and some guy was just like, I'm just here to worship God. Like, I love Jesus. I want to tell people about Jesus. And Don's trying to interview about just different stuff. And he's like, I'm not in the headspace to even do that. Like, I don't want to interview. I just wanted to say Jesus loves you. And me and my children, we come here on Sunday. It's supposed to be a day of rest and worship. And, you kind of ruined our day. So I don't know how these cases are going to go. I think they fully have, based on the law, the right to do this stuff. That doesn't mean that in the end justice is totally gonna be served. I think Don Lemon, they'd have a harder time coming after him because he's like operating from the I am a journalist. But there's also video of Don Lemon. He's like, because I'm not an activist. I'm not an activist. There's a video of him out with protesters, and they're like, who what side are you on? He's like, come on, man, I'm Don Lemon. And then the guy apologizes because they know he's on their side, because they know he is an activist. And then if you knew, it seems like he knew beforehand what they were doing. And even if he didn't know, they were engaging in a, violation of the FACE Act or whatever. If you knew that some people were going to do some bad stuff and they showed up, or it's kind of like in the atmosphere that maybe they're going to do some bad stuff, and you're a journalist, you're just going to be there to document it, and you show up at a bank and they're about to rob it, would you be like, okay, well, I got to go inside and, interview people who are being like held at gunpoint and go in, the vault as they're taking out the money and go through the safety deposit box? Like, I'm just documenting what's happening. As soon as he got to the church, it was like, oh, they're gonna be doing stuff. Like, he didn't need to participate and then like go harass the pastor. And when the pastor barely touches him, he's like, don't touch me. It's like, you're in his face invading his church. Like, but I don't know if they're going to be able to go ahead with Don Lemon. He seems to think that he's pretty untouchable, but he's thriving in the controversy right now. And that's the point of doing a lot of this stuff. But here's an interesting article. Far left, this is from Fox. Far left agitator who organized Minnesota church storming raked in over $1 million from anti-poverty nonprofit. Far left agitator Nakima Levy Armstrong, who is one of the organizers of the storming of a Minnesota church to protest ICE on Sunday, raked in $1 million during 6 years leading a Minneapolis civil rights nonprofit that addresses anti-poverty issues. Armstrong, whose website identifies her as a civil rights lawyer and scholar activist, helped to organize the storming of the city's church in St. Paul, Minnesota on Sunday. In a Facebook post, she claimed that one of the church's pastors is a leader at U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement. The demonstration is one of the many throughout the Twin Cities in protest of the federal government's surge of immigration enforcement officials to crack down on widespread fraud taking place in the state. Armstrong, who is currently the founder and CEO of a cannabis company called Dope Roots, led the nonprofit as an executive director for at least 6 years from 2019 through 2024, according to tax filings with Wayfinder Foundation. And the 2024 tax filing shows that despite the foundation being dedicated to giving grants to anti-poverty community initiatives, it awarded just $158,811 that year, while Armstrong brought in a salary of $215,726. She also took an additional $40,548 in health benefit plan contributions and deferred compensation, according to the 2024 filing. In 2023, the year that the nonprofit awarded $133,698 in grants, Armstrong brought in a salary of $170,726 plus $44,300 in other compensation from the organization and related organizations, according to that year's filings. The year before reflects the same pattern, with Armstrong bringing in $175,000 in compensation plus an estimated of $33,126 in other compensation, while the organization just gave $161,325 in grants per the 2022 filing. According to filings ranging from 2019 to 2024, in 6 years, Armstrong made $936,395 as executive director of Wayfinder Foundation, plus an additional $201,313 in health benefits and other compensation. Meanwhile, during her time in leadership, Wayfinder Foundation dispersed approximately $700,052 in grants. She got paid quite a lot of money. In the same time span, the foundation reported $5,246,387 in revenue. The group has counted Black Lives Matter Global Network Foundation as a donor. According to a 2023 Black Lives Matter Global Network Foundation tax filing, the group donated $20,000 to Wayfounder to conduct activities to educate and support Black communities. The Walton Family Foundation, which makes charitable donations on behalf of the family behind Walmart's founding, is also a major donor, according to a 2018 to 2024 tax filing by the Walton Family Foundation. It donated $2,340,000 to the Wayfounder Foundation during that time period. Man, so Walmart ended up giving her some change. While nonprofit's website is now defunct, Fox News Digital reviewed some of its archive pages, and it reveals that in its signature community activist fellowship program, we intentionally invest in Black women and Latina activist organizers and change agents who are using their social, political, and financial capital to challenge the status quo and to disrupt business as usual within systems that perpetuate oppression. Where others see deficiencies, lack, and want, Wayfinder sees opportunity for little revolutions that place demands on power and change systems for the better. Armstrong says in a message to potential donors on the defunct website of the Wayfounder Foundation, we get there by investing directly in the most basic unit of change in a child's life, their mother. Before Sunday service disruption, Armstrong caused controversy through her far-left views and activism. She's also been a key organizer in the boycotts against Target over its decision to scale back its delivery, equity, and inclusion programs. In its September 26 post, Armstrong had a high praise for Joanne Chesimard, also known as Asta Shakur, who was convicted murderer of a state trooper, Warner Forster, for a comment. Forster in 1977. Armstrong called her a brave and wise and powerful revolutionary Black woman. Fox News Digital reached out to Armstrong and Wayfounder Foundation for comment, but did not immediately receive a response. Black Lives Matter Global Network Foundation, the Walton Family Foundation, and Walmart also did not respond to Fox News Digital's request for comment. So, some real peaches here that are just really engaged in professional political activism, who do a lot of stuff to enrich themselves. This is reminding me, the other day we talked about James Tallarico. He's a Democrat from Texas, and he brought up different how people want to display the 10 commandments in schools, and he voted against that. He's like, well, why aren't we showing these other scriptures in other places? And so he mentioned, like, why don't we show thou shalt not judge, at courtrooms, which is stupid, really stupid. But he said, how come we don't have the love of all men, the love of money is the root of all evil in the boardroom. So I think Monday or Tuesday, I think it was Tuesday, we just talked about some of the clips and went through 1 Timothy chapter 6 and talked about how, one, he misquoted the scripture, but it's really taken out of context. And the point of that verse, which is actually the love of money is the root of all kinds of evils, is not a condemnation on having money. It's not a condemnation on wealth. Because Paul was warning Timothy about people who preach false doctrine, because this appearance of godliness, they find it profitable, or they believe it'll bring them profit, and they have a desire for wealth and other things like that. And so he goes on to say, the love of money is the root of all kinds of evils, and encourages Timothy to stay on the righteous path. And then he gives him instruction on how to actually teach rich people, to teach them to not be haughty or proud, to be charitable, and to not put their faith in their material wealth, but in God, who gives them, all these things to actually enjoy. And as they do good, they'll have treasures laid up in heaven. So I think of that scripture because I'm thinking of all these people who preach a false virtue, and they go around like, we're going to help these people, we're going to do this, we're going to stand for these victims and the marginalized and all this kind of different stuff, while they themselves are just really doing a lot of the stuff to enrich themselves. Like, what's going on with this nonprofit here, you know? And it's obviously not right. And it's not just this. There's people who continuously keep quoting the Bible who don't care about the Bible. Like, what about the stranger? Like the white guy who was in the church harassing the people. Like, gee, what about Jesus? What would Jesus do? And what about the stranger? And you guys are here sipping your lattes and you're rich with your problem. And I'm like, he's in a sweater vest. Like, how do you know this person is rich? Like, you don't know. Just because they dressed up nice for church doesn't mean that they don't have problems. And even if they were rich, that doesn't mean that they have a perfect life. So someone said it's called fraud. Yeah. We'll see what else kind of happens with the a lot of people do that stuff, unfortunately, but especially people who do this DI civil rights kind of stuff. I'm not saying there's not people out there who's doing good work, community kind of work, but you should not be, your salary should not be higher than the amount of grants that you give out that's meant to help other people. That's crazy. that is so, they shouldn't be like near each other. Like, if you're, that should just really not be the case. And I understand you build something up, you want to do well for yourself, you want to give yourself a nice living. That's one thing, but you have to, your pay has to reflect the quality of work that you're doing. And if people like, I don't know, organizations or the Walmart family or whatever are giving all this money, other people are donating to this cause, expecting that you're going to help women in need, and it's just like more activism stuff. So I don't even know the validity of like, or what I would consider, if I would consider these people kind of worthy of all these kind of donations or whatever and grants that she was giving out anyway. But you could at least support the causes properly. I mean, haven't given yourself 6 figures with all this stuff going on and not putting out more money is insane. Did you really have to get paid that much? Like, would life have been that crazy if you were only making 90,000 instead of like 200? You know, would it have really been that insane? But these people are enriching themselves. You know, there's a lot of fraud in Minnesota going on anyway with the Feed Their Futures, and you know, a lot of people are looking at the different home care and the daycare stuff and the autism care, and people just pocketing money, getting kickbacks, not with the Feed Their Futures. You know, they were getting paid to push out certain amount of meals that, you know, I think like 4,000 meals or whatever, and they weren't doing that, obviously. Funny enough, one of the women who's convicted in that, they're very chatty, and they were talking to Fox about how they believe Governor Tim Walz and the Attorney General must have known about it. I can go ahead and play you guys that clip. And there are whistleblowers that said that they knew, at least not the Attorney General, the governor knew, and they would still approve these programs, which if these programs were held up or whatever, they would accuse people of racism and other things like that. And I think in the case of Keith Ellison, I don't know. There's so many people are incompetent, and so many people I think are also corrupt, and it could be both in this case. I mean, Keith Ellison is so shady. He's so shady. He's such a political activist. And his son was like being paid a lot of his bills and stuff were being paid while he wasn't doing his job. I think as a city council person. He had a government position, but he was like going to school, wanted all these expenses to be paid for and whatnot when he wasn't like really actively doing his job, but got like a really good salary. Like a lot of these people are just vultures, or rather maybe parasites is a better term, living off of the taxpayer dime. And they don't have to be careful about how they spend their money because it just comes. So when it comes to your money and dishing it out to, I don't know, all these groups or whatever, what do they care? They don't have to. No one is making them be responsible, unfortunately, and they don't really face a lot of serious political consequences. What is Tim Walz's political consequences? Not running for mayor for governor for a third time?
And a Fox News alert also in Minnesota. The convicted ringleader of one of the state's biggest fraud schemes is speaking to Fox News from behind bars. Now, she believes that the scam was no surprise to local Democratic leaders, and she's naming names. She spoke to Alexis McAdams. Hi, Alexis.
Hey, Dana. Yeah, so everywhere you look in the state of Minnesota, right, there seems to be another fraud scam. So this one involves Amy Bach. She's a Minnesota woman convicted of fraud for taking taxpayer money that was meant to feed hungry kids. But listen to this. Bach tells me the real issue here is the state of Minnesota, which she says kept giving scammers your taxpayer money even after they were flagged as fraudsters.
I have to believe that the governor's office and Keith Ellison's office were aware of this. They've said they were involved in helping the FBI. They've said they were made aware, but apparently I'm scary, so they couldn't do anything.
So Bach ran this nonprofit called Feeding Our Future. You might have heard of it. It was one of dozens convicted in this $250 million scam. You can see her mugshot there. Prosecutors say this group set up sham restaurants. They pretended they were making these meals. They got paid by the state for those meals, but they just pocketed the cash. Bach, who's looking at 30 years behind bars, tells me the state signed off on those businesses, not her.
It all went through a process. They were all approved. They were all paid by the state, yet all the fingers are being pointed at me.
And it's not just Bach. Whistleblowers told a congressional committee Minnesota Governor Tim Walz and Attorney General Keith Ellison there ignored warnings for years as millions of dollars and millions were stolen on their watch. Congress is investigating a long list of massive fraud schemes in the state. It's hard to keep up. Prosecutors say it's led to at least $9 billion in fraud, Dana, and counting. Congress also asking why the Attorney General there would meet with a group of Somali fraudsters, which were under FBI investigation in 2021. The group can be heard in an audio clip given to us by Bach's lawyer offering to donate to his campaign if he can help them get their funding flowing again. Ellison denies any wrongdoing here. He slammed Bach in a statement to Fox, calling her a liar, a manipulator, adding now she's on a media tour to deflect her guilt onto others instead of finally taking responsibility for this fraud scheme that she ran. So we reached out to Governor Walz too, Dana. He didn't get back to us. House Republicans say it's just getting started. They want to subpoena Walz and Ellison because they say they're responsible for ripping off American taxpayers.
So, just want to make it clear that report didn't say that he took the money. Maybe he did. I don't know, but that they did offer it if they could get the money flowing again. There was a lot of shady stuff that happened as far as the fraud with that particular story, and there's a lot of different fraud going on. That the New York Times wrote about the last year, kind of late last year. It was before the Nick Shirley stuff went super viral, whatever. But these stories have kind of been in the air. This should have been like a major talking point, like during the election and whatnot, of some of the fraud stuff that was going on under Tim Walz's watch. And of course, it was not, because we don't have a responsible government. Now, I want to go back to Nikema Levy Armstrong. because she actually went on CNN to just kind of downplay her role or disruption and stuff. But they literally, like, what she wants to do is disrupt.
And I do want to correct something that was said in the beginning. We did not rush into that church. We actually went and sat down and participated in the service. And after the pastor prayed, that is when I stood up and asked him a question in response to his prayer. And then he responded to me. And then I proceeded to ask him about Pastor David Easterwood and how is it possible for him to serve as both the pastor and the director of ICE for Minnesota. And instead of responding to me, as soon as I said the name David Easterwood, the pastor said, "Shame, shame." And that is when I led us in chants, "Justice for Renee Good" and "Hands Up, Don't Shoot." So I want to clarify that. We didn't rush in. We didn't bust in. We were a part of the service until I got up and posed that question to the pastor.
Yeah. So this is not a participation thing. You go into somebody's church. I waited till he was done with the prayer and then I got up, and like, that's not what you're supposed to do, ma'am. That's not what you're supposed to do. Now my church, we little interactive. You'll hear us like give us a comment sometimes from the audience or whatever, but we're a small church. We're all pretty close and stuff, but strangers coming in, then you get to interrupt and ask questions and protest it. You came there to be disruptive. It's just not going to work. I don't think legally interviews like this make any sense to. I mean, there's live stream and videos and all kinds of different stuff anyway, but what you're still saying is not appropriate for how you act in a church. And I'm sure she knows this. But here's her talking to Don Lemon.
Tell us why you're doing this.
This is Operation Pull Up, more of a clandestine operation. We show up somewhere that is a key location. They don't expect us to come there, and then we disrupt business as usual. So that's what we're about to go do right now. Defending justice for Renee Good and letting them know that this will not stand. They cannot pretend to be a house of God while harboring someone who is directing ICE agents to wreak havoc upon our community and who killed Renee Good, who almost killed a 6-month-old baby. Enough is enough. I am a reverend on top of being a lawyer and an activist. So I come here in the power of the Almighty God.
Tell us what.
I heard people say that she said that she was a reverend. I didn't know what clip or whatever. So I didn't get to the end there. So I'm like, a reverend? Yeah, she absolutely knows the way she acted was not appropriate in that church. So you're a lawyer. You didn't know or care how you're going to be violating their First Amendment rights? Acting a fool. There's nothing inherently wrong with that pastor, if he even is associated with ICE in that kind of way. But there's nothing wrong with it. There's nothing wrong with it. And you could talk about loving the stranger and all that stuff. But they're still supposed to follow the laws. They're still supposed to follow the laws. And people want to quote that all the time, but they don't want to quote Romans 13. And it's funny because I remember a time when they wanted to quote Romans 13. They wanted to quote Romans 13 during COVID. Obey, when you got talking about obeying the government and all that other kind of stuff. That's when they wanted to quote that. But when it comes to immigration, they act like that doesn't exist. Which, by the way, when people would bring that up during COVID, I'm like, they're violating our First Amendment by telling us not to go to church and all kinds of different stuff. They're the ones being disobedient to the laws that we have, like the supreme laws that we have. And then also, you don't have, if it's telling you directly to disobey God and do something ungodly, that's not the same. But what she is doing is insisting that it's somehow immoral and wrong and unjust for this pastor to be associated with ICE while leading a flock, and that's just not the case. What ICE is doing is keeping the laws of the land, protecting the borders, doing border enforcement. A lot of these people are really bad people, or have done really bad things. There's a lot of sex traffickers and all sorts of stuff that ICE will go after and take out. People who've done sexual violent crimes, which some of these people who they've been taking out of Minnesota are people who've done sexual crimes. And these people are like, oh, they're detaining these people who are American citizens. Sometimes when people don't want to provide ID, like there's one woman who was arrested. There's a video of her. It's very viral. And she's like, I'm an American citizen. I'm an American. She was with somebody who apparently was not an American citizen, and she didn't want to provide any information. Now, they let her go. But when you obstruct, whether you are an American citizen or not, you might be arrested for a little while and then let go when they don't have anything to book you on or keep you on, really. But in the meantime, you might go to jail for a little while. You might have to get handcuffed. You might take a ride in the police car. Don't resist. Just give them the information. Be cooperative, and at least remember that there's a power dynamic. They have the guns. You don't. You may have one, but you better be real careful about when you try to use that, because they will definitely justify taking your life if you come off as a threat. So I'm not surprised these people are being arrested. I don't know if at the end of the day they're going to get any time, if they're going to get any kind of punishments that are along the lines of what these pro-life people got when they violated the FACE Act. But Biden sure did use that, FYI. Biden certainly used that. Last thing I want to talk about before I let you go. There were so many clips that I saw of like some American tennis players that are in Australia, and they are just being harassed by journalists. And it's so inappropriate. Let me at least show you guys one. I'll do some short videos of it and put it online, but
Hey Amanda, congratulations on the win. I've been asking a lot of the American players just how it feels to play under the American flag right now, and I'm curious how you feel.
Yeah, I mean, I was born in America, so I'm always proud to represent my country. And yeah, a lot of us are doing really well, and it's great to see a lot of, great athletes on the women's side, on the men's side. So yeah, I feel like we're all doing a great job representing ourselves.
And sorry, do you mind if I follow up?
Sure.
Sorry, just to clarify a little, I mean, sort of in the context of the last year of everything that's been happening in the U.S., does that complicate that feeling at all?
I don't think that's relevant.
Amanda,
why are they bothering these people? They're there to play a sport. They are there to play a sport. It kind of reminds me of I don't know which is worse. There was a black basketball player who didn't kneel for the flag, and some Isaacs. And then the sports journalist were like, well, why didn't you, as a black man, like, why didn't you kneel? Don't you care about black lives? And his thing was like, I don't want to just pull anything out, pull people away from what I think will actually help, and that's Jesus. Like, he thought the rest of the stuff was kind of a distraction. So that's why he decided to stand and not kneel. And so he's the only one on the team who stood. Before journalists to just be like, don't you care about black lives? Like, this man is a black man How dare you be so rude and ignorant to ask that kind of question? But this is, I can understand that stuff though to some degree, because at least that was during that time, and he obviously decided to stand, so he was going to get questions about it. They're just there to play tennis. And you just expect everybody to hate Donald Trump and be like, oh, we've been living in a fascist regime, while there's people in Iran being murdered by the thousands, which, by the way, there's people in New York protesting against the U.S., saying free them from Iran, from Israel and American, I don't know, involvement. Not really caring about people who are being murdered, and save the Ayatollahs and all that other kind of stuff. Just insane stuff. What if they're cool with stuff that's been going on? Why should they be? And even if they weren't cool with it, presidents come and go. They might not like certain things going on in the country, but that doesn't mean that they're not still proud to play for America. You know, I don't care if it was Obama in office or Biden in office or Clinton in office. I've never been like, nope, I don't like being an American anymore. They'll be gone in 4 years or 8 years. Definitely 8 years. I might not like certain things, policies that are passed. I may be ashamed of certain things. I'm very ashamed of like the amount of babies and stuff that we kill here in the U.S. There's policies that I definitely don't like, but I'm still glad to be here in the United States of America. There's things I could complain about, but I'm certainly not going to go to another country and rag on my country while playing a game. As I get paid like millions of dollars to play a game. And be like, yeah, it really sucks being me and been living in America. So inappropriate. So I briefly said I would talk about the there's an interracial marriage debate between Ruslan, God Logic, and they were the ones who are, hey, interracial marriage from a Christian perspective is fine. And there was Joel Webbin and his two co-hosts who argued that I'm not going to condemn interracial marriage, but it's not God's ordered design. So it's not how God would prefer. And so I was curious to hear what kind of scripture they would provide to make such a case, and they really didn't. And it was over 2 hours. And the sort of responses they gave to push back on God Logic and Ruslan was ridiculous, which Ruslan, he is married. He's Armenian. He's married to a white woman. A black woman. At one point of time, Joel kind of, crash out is a strong word. That's what people were describing it. But he rants about how people slander him as a racist and how they're mean online. And he's like, they call me racist and they don't even know that I have a co-host who's half black. His half black co-host was arguing against interracial marriage. And said that he would oppose like his children marrying, or would discourage his children marrying a black person. His children were a quarter black. No, they're probably less than quarter black because he probably isn't actually half black, but just really wild stuff. But the whole time, if you decide to watch it, it's kind of wild. And there are people on like the far right or Christian nationalists that are trying to make a point about being against interracial marriage. There isn't a good biblical case for it. There is not they did not make a good biblical case for it. In the least bit. And God Logic and Ruslan provided a lot of scripture to kind of back up like different instances of multiculturalism or where interracial marriage and stuff was fine. The examples where you're going to see God be like opposed to stuff is if those people from other nations and stuff are going to lead you to disobey God and go like worship pagan stuff or whatever. So that's the caveat there, but they did not provide like any scripture to really prove their point. And one of the wildest things I'll say, and then I'll let you go. Joel was asked a question. He's Reformed Baptist, and so he was asked like, okay, if your daughter was going to marry Vadi Bachman's son, like, would you oppose that? And so he said yes, and he kept saying, well, my daughter, she wouldn't live in a vacuum. There'd be other like choices. There'd be like, you could say there's this really great black guy, but there's all these other white suitors basically that she could choose from. So, and they're just like, why does that matter that there's more white people that exist that she could possibly date? Like, if she wants to marry Vadi Bachman's son, and he's Reformed Baptist like you are, and he's a really good guy or whatever. So would you be willing to support that, or would you discourage that? And he said that he would, and they had to push on him kind of a while to get to that point. And so he admitted that he would discourage it. And when they pressed him again, he claimed it was because he wants his grandchildren to look like him. Now, I think that's pretty selfish to discourage it. Like, they said if you have a preference, that's one thing. Like, if you say it's a preference, that's one thing. But they took issue with him alleging that it's like against God's ordered design. Like, God, like, he'll permit it, but it's not something that God would like or whatever. They didn't provide any evidence for that, but if you want your child to look like you, I understand that your child should look like you. They're half your DNA, but they don't only look like you, they look like your spouse. So when your child decides to get married, they're not just going to look like you and your spouse. Your grandchild is going to look like your child and then the person that they married. And you lose some of that control, right? They're still going to look like you as long as your child looks like you, though. And those features are still going to be there. But looking at the skin color and being like, oh yeah, that's my skin color, they look like me, is really bizarre to me. I'm not saying that people don't like particular shades and like, oh, I want my milk chocolate baby, or like that people don't have those sort of inclinations. But it's one thing to kind of desire something. It's another to discourage your daughter from marrying a good man because you'd so desperately want your grandbaby to have the same skin color. Like, my nephew, he has a gap. I look at his gap, I'm like, oh, you got a gap like I got a gap. And it's cute. It's adorable. I see myself in him. There's other ways that you're going to mirror your grandchildren. You might see their smile. You might see a baby photo. Maybe they don't look like so much you when they get older or whatever. I don't know. But at some certain period of time, you look at them like, oh, they look just like you at this age, and et cetera, et cetera. Like there's a, one of my cousins, they look a lot like my dad's dad. Like, you can see it at certain times, but they're not going to look exactly like you. And it's just, I don't know, like really controlling and too ambitious for, I think, a grandparent to be like, I don't want you to marry this person because my grandkid isn't going to look enough like me. And by that, I mean, they're not going to be white enough. That's weird. That's weird. And then to be like, I'm not racist because I have a half black co-host who's here arguing against interracial marriage that obviously brought him into the world is bizarre. And again, there wasn't a good scriptural reason for it, which Joel had a different opinion in the past. And so he changed his mind on it or evolved, but he didn't have a good scriptural reason for that evolution. So I don't know how much of it is him appealing to just white nationalists. But yeah, that was a debate that happened like last week. And it was bizarre. Absolutely bizarre. So the woke right or far right white national Christian nationals or whatever. They're not sending their best. But if you got some time, you want to check that out, FYI, I watched it on Ruslan's page. If you want to see it. Anyway, God bless you guys. You guys can go to black2news.com, check a different content website, articles, reviews, etc. If you like what I do, please consider leaving a donation on the site because it does cost a stream on my site. All that good stuff you guys can support. I very much appreciate you guys. You guys can also check out different merch that's available on the website as well. Like I'm Not the Victim You're Looking For. Be Better Not Bitter. For all you Blacktivists out there who need a attitude check. That's why I made that shirt. So go ahead and you guys can get that. I also got my cool Frederick Douglass shirt, It's almost Black History Month, so you guys can be non-woke during that month and celebrate some people who are just trying to move the needle forward and not engage in severe victim mentality. You guys can also check out some different books that I have as well. There's a link in the description. I'll take you to my book website where you guys can check out my book, Bigger. Anyway, God bless you guys, and I will see you on Monday.